All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of XS Exceed. This is Gearface. I'm so pleased to be joined after we just figured this out, a long hiatus since I think April of last year. Taxi is back on the show. Hi, Taxi. Thanks so
Oh,
much for being here.
hello. Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah. It's been a little while. Super excited to talk to you again. For people who don't know, Taxi was my original Exceed teacher way, way back in, when I was just a young Gearface. Back in the summer of 2022, when I joined the community, I ran a mentor event to get new players into the game. I was one of the new players. We paired people up with mentors. Taxi was who I learned my first couple characters from, including briefly, I don't remember much of it, but I do remember talking about Shovel Knight and Shield Knight, sometimes called EX Shovel Knight because there's two of them, differentiated from Promo Knight or Shovel Knight up here from season 2, another character that Taxi has taught on this show. Um, yeah, super excited to learn a little bit about Shovel and Shield from Taxi. A couple disclaimers before we get started. As always, number one, uh, we are going to be talking about playing Exceed to win on this show. That's not the only way you can play Exceed. You can play Exceed for fun. I recommend that you do. If the lines of play that we're describing don't sound like fun, don't play that way. Taxi in particular has, I'll let him speak to this in a second, a certain philosophy about playing Exceed to win, which is like a respect thing. Um, if so, we're going to be talking about it through that lens. But if what we're saying doesn't sound like a good time to you, and there's another line of Shovel and Shield that does sound like a good time to you, play that way instead. You'll play longer, you'll have more fun doing it. Um, Disclaimer number two is we don't know everything. Exceed is absolutely not a solved game. I don't know anything. Taxi knows some things. We average out to knowing like 25% of things. Um,
That's a high number. I
I know,
wouldn't go
right?
that
I mean,
far.
well, you bring the average up a lot. Let's say you know 50, I know 0.
I
Um,
wouldn't say I know 50.
um, all that to say, though, if you have a different line with Shovel and Shield, him being on this show doesn't mean that he's right and you're wrong. So develop your own lines with this character. Tell us why we're wrong. All the things that we failed to evaluate correctly, or if you have a different opinion on, I'd love to hear them. But yeah, all that aside, Taxi, please, I would love to know about Shovel and Shield Knight.
Shovel and Shield is a very good, strong character. If you want to win, this is a good character. I think there was a little bit of debate about how strong they were when they came out, but they've been considered high tier since release. And
Yeah,
ever since
they're
Gaboxel picked them up, they
yeah,
were.
our Megaboxel, rest in peace. For people who are a little bit newer to the Exceed community, Goboxel was a legend in the community even when I joined as a Lychee player, as a absolutely brutal Shovel and Shield player. And I understand, Taxi, that you actually learned a fair amount about this character from Goboxel. Is that correct?
Yeah, I learned Shovel and Shield from Gaboxel.
So
Um,
this is the lineage of this is how the Exceed oral tradition gets passed on from master to student. So you were saying just really strong, uh,
really
potentially
strong.
very high tier character.
Yes, and when you break them down, they're actually pretty simple to start playing as well, especially if you kind of understand good Exceed theory fundamentals. Um, there's this theme with cards named Shovel Knight in this game that they keep forgetting to print a backside on them.
Yeah. Okay. Something's coming back to me here. Um, so in our previous lesson on Shovel Knight Promo Knight from season 2, this is one of the characters that you are most infamous for. Uh, he has an Exceed mode that lets him draw a card when he moves, and for your play style and your kind of like very defensive kind of grinding play with Shovel Knight, that's like the absolute worst thing you could do.
Yes,
Um, with this character, it sounds like I'm inferring already that we probably aren't going to be planning to exceed.
this
Um,
character, the backside is still blank. The front side is actually good this time. We like our
okay.
front side this time, which is a new experience for Shovel Knight. Uh,
Let's
Yeah.
while we're talking, let me pull out OG Shovel Knight really quick, just for the point of comparison to explain what we're talking about. So and Shovel Knight is original Shovel Knight is
Mhm.
meant to be like a Shoto character, a character who has just like a good, stable, strong set of tools that are flexible and you can use in a lot of different ways and with a lot of, you know, offensive and defensive applications. And this Shovel Knight, all that goes away because you have the biggest numbers on your boosts of any character ever printed. Um, is there a similar
Yeah.
vibe, like kind of protagonist syndrome vibe with these guys where they are like a balanced set of tools, at least in theory?
Not really. Um, this Shovel Knight, the boosts are so strong that it lets you play this really oppressive defensive line where you just set up and your opponent can't really do anything about it. This Shovel and Shield Knight, instead of our boost being oppressive, we have these two funny little cards that really just define our game plan so
Okay.
massively.
Okay.
They are so much better than everything else in the kit.
This card in particular, I've heard, I've used it myself. Horror stories from Exceed's past. Shield Boomerang is an infamous card. One of the
Shield
strongest,
Boomerang is an infamous card.
one of the strongest ultras ever printed, I've heard.
If Alice didn't exist, it might be the strongest card in the game.
High praise for Shield Boomerang. And yeah, I mean, this is, we'll get into it in a second, but this is a lunatic of a card. So you're saying that we have a certain amount of gauge that we're going to be building over the course of the game. It would be silly to not put that gauge towards these cards, and so we should probably be just ignoring our Exceed mode.
There's a few reasons, but it's a combination of these cards being so exceedingly strong, and the backside of Shovel and Shield looks good on first read, and as I'll show later, when you play it in practice, it's actually kind of flawed, and it's really hard to get your value out of that 3 gauge when you exceed.
Okay. And by comparison, it is actually not hard at all to get value out of either of these cards.
No, both of these cards are insane.
Yeah, they kind of. I feel like Tandem Attack kind of plays itself. Shield Boomerang actually has a little bit of tech to it that, you know, there's like a slight barrier to entry before you just start winning games off the back of it. I guess we'll get into that when we talk about them. Should we start with the character ability itself? Should we start with like how we're going to be playing these ultras? How do you want to do this?
Well, I think what we'll do first is we'll talk about Shield Boomerang,
Okay.
and then we'll cover the character abilities next, because Shield Boomerang is the most defining card in the kit.
Yeah.
And it sets the expectation for how Shovel Knight plays his game plan.
Okay, sure.
So with Shield Boomerang, we have this extremely oppressive setup, because Shield Boomerang reads attacks from range 2, 3, and 4 from our buddy Shield Knight don't hit you.
Right.
The opponent doesn't get gauge. The opponent doesn't do damage. The opponent doesn't do anything. And it's a sweep.
Yeah,
For the damage.
it's an extremely powerful card in its own right. It hits for 6. You're not taking any damage back in most situations. So
Yeah.
I think in order to understand how ridiculous this card is, we probably do need to talk a little bit about like what Shield Knight is and how she works. But to your point about bringing up Shield Boomerang first, this is what we're going to be gunning for pretty much the
Yes.
whole game is finding Shield Boomerang and holding it over our opponent's heads, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. There's Shield Boomerang enables both of the main styles of play for Shovel and Shield. And this here is kind of the setup you're aiming for with both styles of play.
Okay. This kind of board state, my opponent on one side, me in the middle, Shield Knight behind me.
Directly behind you. Yes.
Okay.
Because attacks from range 2, 3, and 4 don't hit you, what that ends up meaning is all three of these spaces in front of you. Oh, let me lock this card. All three of these spaces in front of you, you cannot be hit from.
Right. Right. Okay. So my opponent. Oh, is this card? Does this card get locked in?
It is locked so that it shows the line.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. So if I can move these guys instead, then if I'm here, this is range 2 from Shield Knight.
Yep.
If I'm here, this is range 3 from Shield Knight. If I'm here, this is range 4 from Shield Knight. All of these attacks, if the attack is coming, all of these spaces, if the attack is coming from this space, it just doesn't work on me.
It just doesn't work.
Okay.
Most cards in Exceed hit in this range 1 to 3 band.
For example, all of these, basically.
There is one normal that can hit you. And that's it.
And like in this specific board state, right? Like if we're here, for example, Dive could dodge the shield boomerang, and that would be a big problem for me. But I wouldn't be able to be hit by shield boomerang here. I'm sorry. I wouldn't be able to be hit by Dive correct. Here because he would move past me.
Here as well. This is the one spot where Dive can hit you, but yes.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, so in this board state, Shield Boomerang beats essentially every normal except for Dive, and there are board states where Dive, like here, for example, where Dive doesn't work either. In a lot of situations, even including people's specials, there are no cards that beat Shield Boomerang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous card to have to beat, and it does really, really solid, consistent damage.
Yeah. So I wonder actually if we can. Let me hold on. We got Ryu on the board here. Let me grab his kit really fast, and just to kind of demonstrate your point, right? Sure. If we're at range 1, this doesn't hit. If we're at range 3, this doesn't hit, or 4, this doesn't hit. No, range 4 it does. But if we're at range 3, this doesn't hit. This doesn't hit. At range 1, this wouldn't hit. This doesn't hit. At range 3, this doesn't hit. This doesn't hit.
This card will hit at range 1 or 2.
Oh, right, because you would wind up on the other side of.
But it will not hit at range 3.
Right. Right. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, so you would land here. Okay. And notably, this card is speed 3. If you initiate with Shield Boomerang, you could call this out. So like this is a character. Ryu is a character with an infamously strong set of very stable, flexible tools that can be used in a variety of matchups to cover tons and tons of threats. He's a generalist, right? And almost none of his stuff deals with Shield Boomerang. And I'm pretty sure this kind of trend holds true over like most characters in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an insane card.
Okay. So naturally, this is what we're gunning for.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so how about that's the centerpiece of the character. I kind of want to come back to this a little bit once we've talked a little bit more about some other things, because I feel like how to create setups for this card is a pretty big deal for Shovel and Shield play.
Yes, and we need our 3 gauge.
Right.
That's not free.
Right. Okay. So we're looking for, so when we talk about any gauge boosters, any ways to gain gauge throughout the entire kit, our assumption, unless you tell me otherwise, is that this is a way to get more Shield Boomerangs into my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Both of your ultras are insane, but you are only spending gauge on your ultras.
Okay.
90% of the time.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So how do we get gauge? Well, now we get to talk about the character ability, because Shovel and Shield Knight are blessed with one of the strongest turn 1 mix-ups in the entire game.
Oh, wonderful.
So the way that Shovel and Shield works is Shield is your puppet character,
Yep.
and she starts underneath your character.
Okay.
Your
So
Shovel Knight ability.
so we start here.
Yep. Your Shovel Knight ability is fairly basic. It says as an action, you can move Shield Knight either one space in either direction or put her underneath you.
Okay. So from anywhere. So I could. So if Shield Knight's over here, similar to like Lychee, as an
Yep.
action, she can just be here, or from anywhere she can move one.
Correct.
Okay. And then
It is also resource positive because you still draw a card.
okay. So it's like putting down a boost or taking the move action or something. No, actually, neither of those things because I'm not spending a card to do it.
It's like a boost, but instead of spending a force, it's +1.
Right. Right. And
Which kind of feeds into your economy a little bit because even though you don't have to do it that much, you can still generate pressure while going resource positive.
I see. Okay, so like for example, if there's a particular spot on the field where Shield Knight is threatening, for example, right behind me in a situation like
Yes.
this is a boost. When I've put this down, I've generated threat for my opponent. But unlike every other character pretty much in the game, I'm not committing resources to doing it. Instead, I'm committing a turn.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if Ryu wants to do a play like I'm going to move back and threaten you with Hadoken, where most other characters might have to run up and deal with that in some way that costs you a lot of resources, you can step Shield Knight forward,
Right.
and all of a sudden you're protected by Shield Boomerang again, and
Right.
you draw a card.
Okay. Okay. So this is a pressuring thing that I can do, just moving Shield Knight around because Shield Knight is going to be important to my various threats, even outside of Shield Boomerang. But it doesn't cost me. In fact, it gains me a card. It would be
It
like
gains you a card.
Okay, it'd be like change card 0.
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay, cool.
Um,
So then what does Shield Knight herself do?
yes. So what Shield Knight actually does is she allows your advance and close effects to optionally travel one space further if she starts under you.
Okay. So we have among our normals here. I see what you mean about the turn 1 mix up already. On turn 1, this assault hits 1 to 4.
Correct.
This dive hits here, or if I want to go one space farther and dodge my opponent's sweep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And not only that, it's optional if you want to travel a space further. If your opponent wants to play something cheeky to counter you, you don't have to go further. If Ryu says, I'm going to 1-inch punch your assault, you don't have to take that trade.
And you can see after your opponent has put the card down. This is an option select.
Correct, because this triggers on your before effect.
Right. Okay, because that's where the advance actually is. Okay, that makes sense.
Now you may choose to, but there's many situations where this being optional saves you a ton of headache.
Sure. So I put a I commit to a dive at range 4, for example, right? And this way I get to call out my opponent's sweep if they do that. But I don't necessarily want to be in the corner. So if they don't play a sweep, if they instead they play a block, or if they
wild swing and flip
spike something.
Spike, yeah, you can choose.
Yeah, so I wind up here instead, and I haven't put myself in the corner, but I've still proofed my attack against the possibility of a sweep just by being on top of Shield Knight.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. That's
cool. The thing that makes this turn 1 mix-up so crazy, especially if you go first, you get to do this before any booster played. You naturally have an above curve option that gains advantage.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. I mean, so in Modern Exceed, when we have Mei with Totsugeki and Nagoriyuki with Beyblade running around, this might not seem quite as notable to people, but even just an above curve range 4 option in old school Exceed, especially one that gains advantage, is actually a pretty big deal for a character to have.
Yes.
Okay, so I have in something faster than it should be at this range, and a mid speed that hits at this range while also being a poke. I can kind of double dip on this.
But this is range 4. This card isn't a mid speed. This is on curve.
It's a poke that can't be hit by slows, right?
Yeah. This is like cross at range 2.
Yeah.
It's on curve. And it says they can't hit you.
Yeah.
They have to play an above curve option.
That's actually pretty crazy. So from opening positions, but also any other time I'm at range 4, right? Yes. I have this mix up whenever I can get Shield Knight underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which you can do at any time you want.
Right. Okay. And I mean, also, like, this also means that dive just hits at range 5 too. So I'm also a little bit harder to zone than a normal character might be.
Yeah. If Ryu's standing here, he might not have to critical. He might normally get gauge generation, but he is forced to against you.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So I have the a really, really strong range 4 mix-up enabled by Shield Knight being on my space. There's a lot of other spaces on the board in Exceed and a lot of other board states. Other than range 4, is there a particular reason that I would want Shield Knight underneath my character, or are there other board states that I'm looking to put her in?
Outside of range 4, it's definitely a lot less notable. You still have a few specials, and I'm looking for where we set those. Here they are.
Yeah, where did we...
Oop, I found them.
Aha. Thank you.
All of your Shovel Knight cards in your special kit either advance or close seal. Right. Which means they can take advantage of you starting on Shield Knight's space.
Okay.
Discovery becomes a extremely solid poke option. From range 4, you can hit someone for only 1 damage, but it's speed 6. You beat out a fast fireball.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like Ryu, famous amazing defensive option in Hadoken, would need to initiate to beat this card, and most characters can't do anything. But call this out with a guarded option.
Yep. And even if they do, honestly, you're usually okay with trading because you get a free gauge.
All right. So that's 2/3 of the way to a shield boomerang, Taxi.
Yep.
I understand how
Discovery goes
now.
in your gauge and you get 1 more.
Okay.
This tends not to be something you throw out super willy-nilly. Just because Quick Step is a season 7 boost before season 7 existed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, action compression is like above curve options at range 4. Action compression is something that is pretty rare in old Exceed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's a solid card.
Okay. So is this also part of my opening mix-up? Or is this something that I'm tending to do in other positions later in the game?
Discovery is neat. Usually in the opening, you just don't really need to use it. And typically it's better to kind of take advantage of Quick Step if you end up in a bad situation.
Okay.
But you absolutely can throw it for your last 2 gauge, or if you need to stop a specific threat.
Right. Okay. Because this is still above curve at range 3 as well.
Yes.
If I'm not on Shield Knight, I can still use this at range 3. I can use it. It's kind of like that one Carl Clover special. It looks kind of similar to this. Cantabile, I think it's called.
Yep.
Okay. So similar applications there. These cards are also enhanced by being on top of Shield Knight's card.
Correct. Shovel Drop would start as range 4 because it's in advance 2, hits 1 to 2.
Right.
Ideally, you cross them up for the extra power. That doesn't always happen.
Right.
It's nice when it does. Definitely play around that extra power when you get the opportunity. It's good. But man, hitting for 4 at range 5 at speed 4, not a lot of characters can throw anything at range 5.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, the normals end at range 4. Characters who have projectiles, again, Ryu notwithstanding, he's often the exception. But if you have a fast fireball, it often is hitting for 3. So you actually do have some pretty serious range 5 play then.
Yeah, and if you start tacking on any power boost, this card becomes crazy very quickly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's consistent. It's probably going to hit.
It's one of those other cards that's kind of weird because we kind of want to save it because Hop is so good.
Okay.
At enabling a shield boomerang, because it allows Shield Knight to move 2 spaces, which means if the opponent tries to side switch to turn off your setup, you can hop her to the other side of you, and all of a sudden your setup is back again.
Right. Okay. So if I'm like, so for example, I can't I can move Shield Knight more than 1 space in a turn, but only to me.
Yes.
And being able to, you know,
something
go from here
to
here, and then we need to move Shield Knight back here.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what Hop is generally for.
And you still get another action, so you can choose to either be on the play or recover your resources or do whatever you need to.
Right. Okay.
Charge Slash is the Shovel Knight attack that we like to throw out. It's basically sweep if you initiate.
Yeah, it really is. It's sweep with ignore armor and a little bit less speed, but hopefully that doesn't matter most of the time.
Yeah, and it's got a little bit less range, which is notable, but if you're on Shield Knight, it doesn't have less range.
Right. Okay. And
the ignore armor means that it beats focus as well.
Which sweep doesn't normally do. Yeah, that's actually a really big deal.
It also makes it a really funny checkmate threat.
Sure, if I have a life lead, right? Like this says sweep's a really consistent card. This says that the game is over.
If only we had some way to consistently generate a life lead.
Yeah, you're making a lot of good points here, Taxi. Okay. So a line with Shovel and Shield Knight then is to play the altars in the mid game to generate a life lead and then close things out with Charge Slash.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I have these 2 characters. All of these attacks are coming from Shovel Knight himself. I know that this attack, at least, because we already talked about it, is calculating its range from Shield Knight instead of Shovel Knight. But even these, all of these cards benefit from Shield Knight in some way, because I'm either throwing something from her or getting a range boost on top of them by having her be underneath my character.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
We also have 2 Shield Knight specific cards. Just like our Shield Knight specific Ultra. They just calculate the range from Shield Knight.
Okay.
I wish they were more notable. Honestly, the biggest thing they have going for them is, ironically, that they cost a force.
Okay. Do tell.
In Exceed, there's a really weird interaction when you Wild Swing, which most competitive players already know about, but you are never forced to spend resources on a Wild Swing. You can choose to not spend those resources and take the next Wild Swing instead. And it creates an option select where when you keep Shield Knight near an opponent, you can Wild Swing, and if you get one of these cards, if it works, you could just pay a force. And if it doesn't work, you just see the next card.
Right. Okay.
And it lets you just go through a little bit more of your deck, see some more options, and you have a little bit higher chance of winning the strike statistically.
Sure.
Which is
makes
nice.
sense. Makes sense. Okay. And so these kind of function. This is the second time I've mentioned Lychee, but these are basically projectiles, right? The ideal
Yes.
use case for these is that I'm, my opponent's over here and Shield Knight's over here.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of poking them with these cards.
Yep.
Okay.
Shield Gong kind of acts like another focus.
Sure.
It's got the focus stat line, except it's missing one guard and one range.
Yep, and it's got one extra speed for what that's worth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And it pushes 2 instead of drawing a card, which is sometimes useful. I don't typically value the push on this character a lot, unfortunately. Buckler Blow is a different story, where because it's speed 7, it allows you to basically interrupt anything the opponent wants to do. And with the push, you basically say the opponent just doesn't hit you for a strike.
Yeah, I mean, I just called these projectiles, but this one in particular at like range 2 or 3. Like if my opponent's, here, and Shield Knight is here, for example, even.
If your opponent does the fun play where, you put Shovel Knight behind you, or Shield Knight behind you, and they
Right.
try and cross it up.
Right.
Hey, look, I've got Buckler Blow now.
Yeah. Now their sweep doesn't hit you anyway because you push them out of the way. You get to range 4. Oh, range 4 is where all these other cool cards are online. I put Shield Knight underneath me, and I can do my big scary opening mix up again.
Yep.
Okay. So this is actually pretty good in the mid range, as well as being just a super super above curve projectile. If Shield Knight's right next to my opponent.
Buckler Blow is not usually something you plan on doing. It's more opportunistic, but when it's good, it's really good.
Okay, because of how scary Shield Boomerang is, my opponent is going to try to be standing next to Shield Knight anyway. That's where Buckler Blow kind of shines.
Correct. Yeah. If the opponent ever tries to move towards Shield Knight, or if you need to generate pressure for a turn, if the reuse threatening Hadouken and your Shield Knight happens to be close enough.
Right.
Now you generate pressure. They have to respect the Buckler Blow.
Right.
You get some resources.
So making the hat trick of when I reference Lychee here a third time, unlike Lychee, who is often doing things like this, or I don't know, setting up unarmed lunge with this, or 4 wins with this setup, Shovel Knight doesn't seem like he's really planning to like chase the opponent around the field with Shield Knight. It's more that I'm planning to be in this kind of 1 to 4 range because that's where my opponent is probably planning to be. And then I'm going to use these as mobile hitboxes in that range that are going to do useful things for me rather than kind of treating them like a projectile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially with Buckler Blow, it's mobile, opportunistic, annoying little pings.
Yeah.
It's not game plan A.
Right. It's basically like a DP that beats sweep in some board states, but it has a little bit of setup from Shield Knight.
Right.
Okay.
With the boosts on these, I'm going to ignore the Ultra for now because that one we'll talk about later. But Quick Switch looks very solid, but is rarely useful in practice. Usually Shield Knight's so close to you that switching doesn't really matter, and if you would want to, you would usually rather spend your Shovel Drop.
Right.
Just because Buckler Blow tends to be useful a little bit more often.
Right. Honestly, you actually have a remarkable amount of action compression between these 3 cards.
Yes, you do.
All of these boosts, you either move Shield Knight, you move Shield Knight, but cheaper, but less far, or you move yourself. And all of these are ways to play kind of some Guilty Gear Exceed.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
When I've seen Quick Switch be good, it's usually in this exact situation where you've got a shovel and shield, and you say, "Oh, my Shield Knight's on the wrong side. Whoops."
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to hit you.
Eat Shield Boomerang. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. And the main reason why this is better is it's zero force.
Right. Yeah.
It's cheaper. Usually these effects are the same.
Right. So if I've gotten myself into a situation where, I've been shoved all the way across the board, I don't care because I can use my character ability to get Shield Knight over to me anyway, or I can move her here. But if I'm in like this situation and I got a handful of normals and there's nothing I can do against Sagat,
Yeah.
then I can quick switch and come in.
You can quick switch, and it is opportunistically useful.
Right.
It's just it's never game plan A. You never
Right.
plan on using this card.
It's a way to fix a bad board state like this one rather than to proactively set up projectile war, because that's not really the kind of character I am.
And often, unless you're against a character who's already pushing you out when you draw this card, it's not worth saving it for that purpose.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will use this in the mid range as just like a slightly larger hitbox that I'm going to use to push sweeps out of the way and confirm some easy power because it's above curve in a lot of board states.
Yep, get some free gauge.
Okay, makes sense. And then Shield Gong, you mentioned as being like pretty unremarkable even in this role.
Yeah, 2 armor's nice. The issue is just at the range it hits, it's usually trading at best, kind of like a focus. Usually this push ends up being more hurtful than helpful. When the card is relevant, you're usually in a zoning situation like this, and it's usually against an opponent who wants to be farther.
Sure. Okay.
And the armor's nice. It's just costing 2 force to then push them further and cost you more force is a really hard pill to swallow. And in a situation where you can actually push them towards you, usually they're already in a range to threaten you with a mix-up where Shield Gong just isn't threatening very much.
They throw an assault and you take 2 less damage and miss anyway.
Yeah. But as a wild swing, hey, it's great. Take a little bit less damage when it's important.
Right. Sure. Okay. That makes sense. So again, never my plan A, even less so than Buckler Blow. This is often going to be kind of a dead card in situations that I find myself in. And it's not so strong that I'm going to be trying to set it up over multiple turns or anything like that.
When I need to spend force, Shield Gong is usually the first card I spend as force.
Okay.
Even more so than most of my normals.
Right. Okay. So like we've gone through almost all of my, I think we've gone through all of my specials at this point. So I have a 1 to 4 that's really a 1 to 5. Sometimes it's 1 to 3 if I want the 6 power. I got a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. I got a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, depending on if I'm on Shield Knight. And then I got these 2 projectiles that really are kind of better in the mid range anyway. And that's where all my normals hit too. Some of them get better when I'm on top of Shield Knight. So what I want before I have my ultras is gauge, obviously. But
yes,
looking at where these cards are best and what they do, I kind of want Shield Knight in this position, or maybe like this position or this position right next to my opponent before I'm setting up any of my ultras, right? Like this is the kind of board state I'm looking for, as opposed to this.
Yes, if you're bothering to move Shield Knight around at all early.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not a zoning character.
Right.
So if you are pushing them out like this with Shield Knight, and I've seen some newer players do this, the issue is you do 4 damage, and then you've got nothing for the next 30 cards.
Right. Yeah, okay. And that is not, I mean, Ryu's got a loopable fireball that does that much.
Even against characters that can't zone you, the reward is just so low.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm up against a zoner, this is something that I can do to kind of keep parity and hopefully quick switch my way in and throw some offense. But you also mentioned this is all assuming that I'm even bothering to move Shield Knight early. So it sounds like part of my game plan is going to be Shield Knight's already in a great position right now. I'm going to use my crazy opening mix-up to do some damage and get some gauge for my opponent. And then we're going to kind of just fight in this range anyway for a while, and if they go out here, maybe I chase them, but I'm probably not going to bring Shield Knight with me.
I mean, I will move Shield Knight eventually, but goal one from the start of the game is get gauge.
Okay. Sure.
And my first attack, if I'm going first, is a mix-up to get gauge and get close.
Right.
And my second attack, and something you'll see a lot of very good Exceed players do, is going to be slow. Because Exceed kind of follows this meta pattern called slow to fast, where in the early game, your slow cards are actually more valuable.
Right. So
because they're safe, the opponent hasn't opened up holes for your fast cards to exploit them.
Right.
And the risk of being behind on gauge is bigger than the risk of being behind on damage.
Okay, sure. And I mean, in conversely, sweep is really, really hard to use effectively as an attack, at least in the late game when I've got 3 life left.
Correct.
And grasp is amazing in the late game because I need to hit really fast because my opponent might only have 3 life left.
Yep, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you do less damage if the opponent is dead.
Right. Okay. So I think like the way that you explained this to me a couple of years ago, like the rock paper scissors triangle is like obviously we know mid speed slows fasts, like the speed triangle is well documented in Exceed. You're saying that the odds are weighted that in the early game me and my opponent are probably going to be crutching on our slows more often, and therefore our mid speed slightly more often because those beat the slows. And then as like a third order consideration, well, if they're using mid speeds more often to beat my slows, maybe I'll throw in a fast here and there. But
yeah, mid speeds are usually a character by character consideration,
right?
Outside of spike,
right?
But typically, especially as the aggressor, slow to fast gives you a more consistent way to enable your game plan and turn on your advantages that allow you to beat your opponent.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm planning to use my opening mix-up to get in close and then threaten some slows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, makes sense. And so in this board state, for example, I assault in, gain advantage, and oh look, they can't cross out now.
Yep.
Because I've effectively cornered them. Sweep works just fine here. If I'm expecting the dive, have shovel drop, take 6 anyway, I get gauge, or discovery, and I get 2 gauge as mix up options. If I expect the focus, I can charge slash them and crush them that way.
Yeah. You can shovel drop, you trade with sweep, you trade with focus. From this
I trade
position.
with grasp.
You trade with grasp, you trade with cross.
Yeah, this doesn't really lose to anything in this position, does it? Really, if my goal is to get gauge in particular.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
If you're expecting a dive, or even if you're just playing solid and you just want to play a sweep, maybe you're expecting them to cross and they end up diving you. Oh no, you both don't hit each other. They've lost a dive, you've lost a sweep. It's
Exceed.
Kind of sort of equal. Yeah.
Right.
But
and
hey, look where they are.
and then I either do this to threaten buckler blow.
Buckler hits at 0.
Oh, hit at 0. Sure, I don't even have to move it. Yeah.
And you can push them either direction.
If I don't have that, I can just put Shield Knight underneath me and have Charge Slash online again, for example, or Shovel Drop again.
Yeah.
Okay. So my opening couple of turns are really good. My opening turn's amazing. I have really, really strong options that kind of almost my whole kit works. And then I can continue to pressure them in this situation in the corner. And by then I probably got some gauge.
Correct.
Okay.
And at 2 gauge, you turn on Tandem Attack. And at 3 gauge, you turn on Shield Boomerang.
Right.
And they're both massive power spikes that you can get extremely early.
Right. Okay. Shall we talk about the ultras themselves then? We sort of already talked about Shield Boomerang quite a bit, but
Yeah, and we'll get into how Shield Boomerang warps your playstyle choice in a bit too.
okay.
Tandem Attack is almost better than Shield Boomerang. It's not
Yeah.
as playstyle warping, but it is insanely strong.
I feel like there's so much so much conversation about Shield Boomerang that we sort of forget how amazing this card is sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah. This card, to hit, you need to move into or out of Shield Knight space. Usually that means you're using it when you're under Shield Knight.
Yeah,
But when
so
you're-
I can
when
benefit
Shield
from
Knight is under you.
my character ability anyway, and hit advance 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, when Shield Knight is under you, this reads, I hit at range 4 at speed 5 and do 7 damage.
Right, so this stun sweep above curve
Yes,
for 2 gauge.
for 2 gauge. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If you add any boost onto this at all, it's insane. This card it's just so easy to get value out of.
Yeah.
Even in weird situations, at range 3, where maybe they catch you like this with Shield Knight, it's still on the table,
Right.
because you can advance 2, and it comes up a lot less often. But if your opponent ever doesn't respect this card for a second, 7 damage wins games.
Yeah,
Exceed is a game about trading.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, if you ever win clean for 7, honestly, you probably paid more than 2 gauge for the privilege with most characters. This is a very cheap way to win to do a crushing blow, uncontested.
At a high level, unless your opponent has opened a lot of holes in you, this card can just win the game on a spot.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I need to move into or out of Shield Knight space, which means that if I'm here, for example, I can land it. Obviously, if I'm here, I can land it because I'm coming out of it. If I cross over Shield Knight, does that count?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, as long as Shield Knight is somewhere around those spaces, or behind my opponent, I could advance and do it this way.
Yep, it's 1 to 3. If you start on Shield Knight, it's 1 to 4.
Right. As long as there's a Shield Knight somewhere in that 1 to 3 range, they're here. 1, 2. I actually would whiff there. So I need them to be before or at the same time as I'm within range of my opponent. I need to have a Shield Knight there.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, and just the above curve or on curve stunning sweep for 2 gauge, I think kind of speaks for itself.
And something to note as well is with both of these attacks, they're so consistent in the situations you would throw them out that you can kind of count them as costing 1 less gauge, because they're almost guaranteed to hit.
They're probably going to hit, and then
you get your gauge back.
My next question was going to be, all right, so is Shield Boomerang so important that it's difficult for me to justify throwing Tandem Attack? But if Tandem Attack only costs 1 gauge, then unless I literally need the Shield Boomerang right now to not die, I can't even afford to take 1 more turn. I can throw Tandem Attack, that's fine.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper than you think it is.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get it back almost all of the time.
Right. And I got situations generation tools.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll even though Shield Boomerang is my infamous, most important, scariest card in the whole universe, Tandem Attack, I'll just use it and it'll be fine.
Yeah. I would say both of these ultras, I would almost call it equally strong. Shield Boomerang is the one that warps your play style the most.
Okay.
For both play styles of this character, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But they're both just so incredible, and the opportunity to just get free damage and get ahead is just insane.
Yeah.
This is 7 damage for free because not much can deal with it. And this card reads 6 damage for free because not much can deal with it. Right. And the gauge cost is really a lot less high than you think. Your opponent needs to generate that same amount of free damage against you in the same time frame to keep up.
Right. And man, that's hard to do when you can just hold Shield Boomerang over them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this says I'm 7 damage ahead. This says you're 6 damage behind. Right? Because whatever thing that you're more than 6 damage behind, I'm sorry, because you tried to hit me with Metsu Shoryuken for 7.
Mm-hmm.
You whiffed. Now you're 13 behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we look at the boost on these two, the boost on a Shield Boomerang, it's hard to read, but there's fine print right at the bottom here, and it says, "Why aren't you playing Shield Boomerang as an attack?"
Yeah.
Um,
In theory, this is crazy value. I get a big huge hand reload, and I get 2 force in my gauge. That's awesome.
It's +2 force and +1 gauge. The issue is, without Shield Boomerang, why is that gauge there?
Right. All right. So I would use it to fund my other Shield Boomerang, but I have so many other, like, I can throw Discovery and get 2 gauge or something. I can probably find a way to get the gauge for this.
Gauge normally.
Yeah.
You're probably going to generate 6 gauge over the course of the game.
Right.
At least.
Yeah, and I'm like, gauge is hard to come by for, like, Tager, right? For characters who invest in swing and expect to hit 3 times a game. That's hard to get gauge. I got a pretty stable set of tools here. They're probably going to hit. They're probably going to do work for me, and I'm probably going to get some gauge that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tandem Attack does have an actual boost.
Okay.
The opponents cannot move you effect is nice and cheeky. +3 power, +3 armor is huge. It's a 6 damage swing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good.
Okay. So
it says whatever you attack plays probably breaks whatever attack the opponent plays. And if they're faster than you, take no damage.
So this isn't a before effect, right? This is a passive effect. So if it's got a trigger, right? I've got to be on Shield Knight. So if I am in my favorite awesome range 4 board state here,
and
I put this down, and then I play Assault, knowing that, well, I'm gonna crush my opponent's sweep. It's gonna be awesome. Oh wait, I'm not on Shield Knight anymore. I can't leave Shield Knight and get Inseparable, correct?
Yeah, it has to be. You're not playing it with any cards that synergize with Shield Knight. You're playing it in the situation where your opponent puts you in a bad spot.
Okay.
It's definitely less good than the regular Tandem Attack, but I've seen it used.
Sure.
Especially on
and
sweeps.
if I'm not here where I could play the Tandem Attack and instead I'm here, I'm happy to use this.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense. I guess also
even here you probably just play the Tandem Attack.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, you might do it anyway if you've got the gauge and you think you might. I mean, it's below curve, but like it's okay. You can probably just throw this out occasionally. It's 2 gauge. I was gonna say that, if I really, really, really wanted to be incredibly cheeky, this is a super face-up play. But if I'm in this board state, I put down Inseparable, and then my Assault would gain these advantages.
That is correct.
By moving on to Shield Knight, but like, my opponent's going to know that that's what I'm doing. Correct?
Yeah. They absolutely will.
Okay, so they play Assault into me. I guess I get Discovery off of that.
Yeah. Usually when I've seen this be good, it's paired with Focus or Sweep.
Sure. Something that I'm planning to trade with anyway.
Yeah, it's neat.
Okay.
Your Ultras are definitely extremely strong. Plan on playing your Ultras first.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool. Before we get into Shield Boomerang setups, I know that that's where we're kind of going next. We've talked about some of these boosts and their use cases. Quick Switch is not as useful as we think it is. We haven't
didn't
talked
talk about
about
this one.
full defense, I think, at all.
Yeah. So this and Shovel Knight Succeed read very similarly,
Okay.
where they have this really cool effect. If your opponent is on the opposite side of Shield Knight, so you're in one direction and your opponent's in the other,
Right.
for full defense, they don't hit you. That's insane.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, that's Shield Boomerang text.
Yeah, it's Shield Boomerang text. For your Exceed, it's +2 armor, which is
That's
still
still
a
pretty
good
good.
effect to just
Yeah.
get every strike
Sure.
if they're on the opposite side. The issue is Exceed is usually a close range game.
Sure.
I know Taxi Meta memes aside of playing at range 8,
Right.
but most characters kind of want to get into this 1 to 3 range band and strike you,
Including me, right?
including you.
All of the things that I want to do with my cards involve a close range game for the most part.
This, I'm going to turn Shield Knight sideways, is not on the opposite side of Shield Knight.
Sure.
And that hurts because your opponent can assault in.
Yep.
Even though it's resource positive, the tempo upkeep of moving Shield Knight to re-enable this effect is just brutally challenging. And honestly, Shovel Knight has normals at range 1, but Shovel Knight doesn't play better than other characters at range 1.
Right.
The reason why you get to range 1 as Shovel Knight is to get your gauge safely.
Right, because you have normals, you have consistent attacks that are probably going to hit at those ranges.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Both of your ultras require you to either really kind of start on Shield Knight or have Shield Knight behind you.
Right.
Shield Knight will be behind you.
Right. Which is kind of the opposite situation that I want for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it would be an alternate play style.
Right.
And maybe you'd use it against zoners, and now you can play the range game. But even against a zoner with this +2 armor, you just can't hit them back.
Right, yeah. I'm going to throw Buckler Blow and Shield Gong, which are not all-star offensive cards. And also, to hit with them, I've got to have her up here. If they do just assault over me, or dive over me or something, I've lost the armor anyway.
And unlike a close range game where you could throw Shield Boomerang and say, I'm 6 life ahead, I get to play my normals, I get to play solid, and now my opponent has to try and catch the 6 life up.
Right.
You don't have any follow-up off of this. All of a sudden, you're down resources, and yeah, your opponent does less damage, but they still just kind of get to hit you for free.
Right. Right. And also, they also do less damage by whiffing into Shield Boomerang.
Yeah.
Okay. Shovel Knight himself also has Exceed mode text, right? Like, yeah, I as an action, I can put Shield Knight anywhere.
Yes.
Is that appealing? Like, I don't want that either.
The thing is normally with how you play with Shield Knight, she's going to be really close to where you want her anyway. Or you're going to want her in your space.
Right. And I can so what I can't do in this position is put her here or something without specific boosts that would let me I don't know.
And this is a tempo gain. It's a turn, right?
Yeah.
It's just, is it worth 3 gauge?
Yeah, 3 gauge. That's a Shield Boomerang. I'm not planning to have Shield Knight outside of like a couple spaces around me anyway. So kind of why bother?
To give yourself an ability that doesn't boost your advantages, doesn't help you end the game faster.
Right.
Doesn't turn your disadvantages into an advantage. It just slows your opponent's win con down a little bit.
Right.
Takes a turn, takes 3 gauge, and really the only benefit you get out of it is sometimes when you've positioned Shield Knight badly, you can position her better for one less turn.
Right.
But you had to spend a turn to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to make up that turn, you need to do that twice a game.
Twice, yeah, and hopefully also get benefit out of the armor in the process. Yeah, that's like, I'm sure that there are ways to do this and make it work, but man, it seems like it's so much easier to just throw Shield Boomerang.
Yeah.
Okay.
And most of the time, if you need to fix Shield Knight's positioning, you have Hop.
Right.
You have Quick Step where you can move yourself on the other side of her.
Right.
You have tools.
Not only does that not take 3 gauge, they don't even really take a turn because they all have action compression on them.
Right.
Okay. And then
it's a shame because they look so cool.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they've got spikes on them now. They're having a great time. We started out talking about full defense. This doesn't take my my gauge or the turn to exceed, and this is a pretty low value card anyway. Are you ever playing full defense?
Full defense is sometimes really useful, and most of the time just not. Okay. It still suffers from the same problem of they have to be in the opposite side. And when it's good, it's in this hyper niche situation where your opponent's position we happen to have it set up like this, where you need to limit their options so they can only dive into you or they're out of dives, right? And so it allows you to turn off a projectile. But even then, if Ryu just throws a Hadouken, yeah, he'll miss, but I also can't hit him.
Yeah, back. What do I do with that? And if I'm here, then he can dive into me.
Right.
Okay.
And if I throw a Shield Boomerang and they had a dive, it still loses to the dive. And if they don't have a dive, it still beats everything.
Right. So this hasn't changed my my interactions at all.
Right.
Okay. And so there are situations where I'm not actively looking to threaten something by having Shield Knight in front of me, but if I just hit with Buckler Blow, or my opponent has actively moved away from my Shield Boomerang setup to here, I feel like there are times when this is useful, but then they can just assault underneath the Shield Knight play anyway and hit me regardless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where I've seen full defense be the most useful is in a situation like this, where you say, I don't want my opponent to spike me. Right. And if they dive, they'll miss. Right. So my opponent they're not allowed to play mid speeds.
Right. So I have a sweep in my hand and I think that they're going to.
Yeah. If they play the cross, I'm happy.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And because they can't do anything that can actually meaningfully deal with the or most for normals at least that can meaningfully deal with the sweep. I can just throw the sweep.
Yeah. Okay. And even then it's neat.
But this is also a card that I'm very happy to spend as force, and I don't really need to justify using the boost if I can dig through my deck faster to find my better cards.
Unlike Shovel Knight and Shield Knight needs to play at a tempo.
Okay.
Because you need to get your ultras online so that you can threaten your stuff. And when your ultras are online, it's just not adding much. And when your ultras aren't online, it's taking a turn.
Right.
And it's taking a turn, and it usually doesn't create situations where your opponent can't respond favorably. Or where your opponent is forced to do a response that wastes a resource that will open up a hole later in the game.
Right. You could have done the same thing to dissuade an option that you don't want to deal with by playing defend or light, or like there's nothing particularly special about this boost, and especially because of how fiddly it is to set up.
And if your opponent ever moves, oh my gosh, it becomes so fiddly. In a situation like this, we're in the middle of the board and you play full defense and you're playing against a zoner. The zoner steps back and all of a sudden you have nothing. And they can just whiff any card they want. They can just wild swing at you.
Sure.
And you kind of still have to deal with them normally. You just spent a turn.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That That is compelling. So there are very limited use cases where I'm going to use it. If I do, it's going to be opportunistically. I'm certainly not going to be looking for them as a from the start of the game. I'm not trying to set up full defense.
Full defense will be useful.
Yeah,
it will be useful sometimes.
Right. Sure, that's fine. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about our 3 action compression boosts. One of them zips Shield Knight across the whole board. We're less enthusiastic about that one because we're not going to be planning to have Shield Knight that far away anyway. One of them moves me, one of them moves Shield Knight. They're all awesome.
Quick switch is the one we're less enthusiastic about.
Yes.
Because normally you want to keep her close to you, and so
Right.
this doesn't matter as much, and it costs a force.
Right.
The other 2 are great. They allow you to fix positioning to create a dynamic threat with action compression.
Right. Okay. So this is honestly like these cards in particular then are honestly the first time in this whole kit that it sounds like we have a compelling argument for both the attack and the boost for these 2. Because for everything else so far, it's been like use these as attacks, probably use this as an attack, probably spend the whole thing as force. Here are the cards that actually like have compelling reasons to use both. How are we evaluating whether to use Discovery and Quick Step and Shovel Drop and Hop?
For Discovery, I would call Quick Step Plan A. And opportunistically, you can use Discovery. You definitely lose quite a bit of life by doing it.
Right.
It gets you 2 gauge, though. That's solid. If you've got nothing else to throw at range, it's pretty good. But usually you have an option to throw at range that's better.
Okay. So I'm at range 3. My opponent strikes into me, and I guess it's an assault or a spike. This would deal with both of those. Or a dive, sure. Any of those. But if my opponent has a Tatsu, if my opponent just plays sweep, I'm super, super down on life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And even if you go down on life, it's not the worst thing in the world because you get 2/3 of an ultra, right? So when we evaluate the card, it's not really 1 power. It's kind of like it's 5 power.
Sure. Right.
But both of these cards average out. So it borrows some of this value.
Right. And I would rather get online with Shield Boomerang with a life lead and then not need to make up damage at all.
Right.
Okay. And then Hop is really there to continuously threaten Shield Boomerang.
Yeah. And Shovel Drop is an insane card. This one is really play whichever one is best in your situation. Shovel Drop is so good.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then last boost in the kit is Charge Up. +2 power, +2 guard. What are you thinking about this one?
Charge Up is good. It's the main issue with Charge Up is that it's basically fierce, but it costs a force.
Yeah.
The guard isn't relevant on anything that doesn't already have guard.
Right.
Because most attacks do 3 damage minimum.
Yeah. I feel like it could be useful with EX attacks. Throwing an EX assault at range 1 with this
it could be, but at that point you're committing 4 force.
That's a lot of resources, yeah.
Yeah. Charge Up is solid. Sometimes you need a fierce and you don't want to spend a grasp or you don't have a grasp.
Right.
And Charge Up can be worth it. +2 damage is nothing to sneeze at.
Sure. And the bonus guard, it's looking like of the things I actually want to use it on, if my opponent is going to try to call me out with an assault on Shovel Drop, or if they have a strong kick shape, if they've got what's that bang card that's so powerful? I mean, he's got a lot of them, but Palm Thrust, Unstoppable Palm Thrust, the 5 speed 4 damage advantage gainer. I might need a little bit more guard on Shovel Drop. That could be used for that. Okay, but am I mostly using this as Charge Slash, or is it kind of 50-50?
I tend to use it as an attack. It's a solid force option if you need force. We mentioned its checkmate potential earlier because it ignores guard, and ignoring guard with high guard yourself is extremely. Or sorry, not ignore guard. Ignores armor.
Yep.
With high guard yourself is very valuable. 1 to 3.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
when you're on Shield Knight. And Charge Up is solid. Can create some funny checkmates as well, where you have like a 5-power grasp or a 6-power EX grasp.
Right. Okay. Yep, makes sense. So pretty modest in the boost department in general. The standout seemed like it's quick step and hop, partially because of shield boomerang.
In general, a trend you're going to see in Shovel and Shield Knight specials is that they're kind of pretty modest on both sides of the card.
Yeah, because all of my power has been funneled into these two.
Charge Slash is a slightly worse sweep, a different sweep.
Yeah.
Which sweep is a great card, but it's not better than sweep. It doesn't do anything particularly new. Shield Gong is a weird focus. It's kind of bad because of cost of force if you actually want to play it, but it's a weird focus. Shovel Drop is actually good. It's, it's a dive alternative. It's solid. It synergizes with your kit a little bit better than some of these other cards. It just happens to be just the right stat line to beat a lot of options, which is nice. Discovery is kind of plagued by this low damage, and Buckler Blow, while a really good interruption option, also just does kind of low damage.
Sure. Okay. So all of these things are part of my plan A, which is get gauge. I will find opportunities to use them for other effects, like hitting for 6, or ignoring armor, or pushing my opponent out of the way of a sweep or something, or getting 2 gauge. But we've talked about them over and over again. The stars of the show, the things that I am actively pushing my game plan towards are these ultras.
Yes.
Okay.
Your
Makes
pride
sense.
and joy.
They are the crown jewels of the kit. So now we're back to where we started. We've talked about tandem attack. We've talked obviously about shield boomerang, but there are setups for this card. There are things that and you've mentioned several times that like this is a playstyle warping card. Do you want to talk a little bit more about how we're planning to actually be using shield boomerang?
We mentioned it a little bit at the start. There's a very, very standard setup where you corner your opponent, and all of a sudden, every space that they have a real access to, they cannot hit you from.
Right.
And it becomes just insanely strong.
Yeah. So this board state is never super far away if my plan is to keep Shield Knight relatively near me. If she's here, move 1. If she's here, hop.
And the secret to cornering your opponent as well is if you're kind of near the center of the board, your opponent's always cornered.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. They can never be that far away. If I'm here, the farthest they can be is range 4 from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even this situation where they're not quite in the corner, this is oppressive.
Yeah. They need to call.
What are they going to do? Retreat 2 and play Hadoken in the same turn?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of resources. That's lightning reflexes into, that's an ultra of force, and probably a critical on top of it. That's a lot to ask even for Ryu.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we also have this funny setup, which is this one, which is very similar, where you have Shield Knight on the opposite side, covering the same idea.
Right.
But you can also threaten Shield Gong.
Oh, okay.
Or not Shield Gong.
Buckler Blow.
Buckler Blow.
Sure. Okay. So this one, my opponent has more access to Shield Knight, right? They can just back up. Yep. On this side, they have to get past me, and that costs more force. Shield Knight's not a character. They don't need to spend extra force to move into her space or anything. But there's not a lot of attacks. From this position, my opponent would need to action compress. And in earlier seasons of Exceed, there's not a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
There's not many attacks that retreat as a before effect.
Yeah. And normally this position doesn't quite happen here in the corner. Normally where you'll see this is something like we start the game, I dive, I sweep you. Oh, hey, look, Shield Knight is turning off these spaces here.
Right.
And now you have to deal with it. You need to either run away super far or corner yourself.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you corner yourself, bam. And I'm one turn away from just being in an oppressive setup.
Right. Right. Okay. So the closer I can get my opponent to having no spaces where they can move at all. Again, Ryu being our training dummy here, he's got advance 1, right? He can get out of a lot of things. He probably can't easily deal with something like this. This is a rough one outside of dive for everybody, it seems like. But in general, the less my opponent can move away from Shield Knight, the more options it enables, it sounds like.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. How is this playstyle warping? Are there multiple different ways to think about Shield Boomerang?
There's 2.
Okay.
And it really deals with both the ultras. There's an aggressive variant and there's a defensive variant. And you can guess which one I tend to favor.
I can, yes. Taxi, famous defensive player.
In the aggressive playstyle, what we say is, I'm going to spend this card. I have a ton of options to play the game normally. Right.
Right.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my free damage and I'm going to keep hitting my opponent so that they have less time to set up their advantages.
Sure.
They have less time to get their free damage back. And in that scenario, you're really using these ultras like water. And you're mostly relying on your normals and shovel drop to get your damage out.
Okay. Sure. So in this line, Shield Boomerang is a threat. When I'm in a situation like this, I am seeing 6 damage and I'm using it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 3 gauge. I have a free 6 damage. Let me
Right.
take my 6 damage. Now my opponent needs to catch up to me. And I get to play normally.
Right.
And while I'm playing normally, I'm probably generating more gauge to get another 6, another 7 damage ahead.
Sure. Okay. And and the way that I play normally is going to involve being pretty careful with my Shield Knight setups. But other than that, I just have a pretty stable set of tools in the normals, and I'm going to use those to just play the game.
Yep.
Okay. And then I assume the defensive line is similar at the beginning. I get a lot of gauge, and now I've got the ultras, and now I'm in this setup. And
the playstyle difference starts when Shield Boomerang comes online.
Yeah, because here, I imagine what you say, if I'm an aggressive player, what I say is cool, free damage. What you're saying is, my opponent can't do anything in this situation. I can do whatever I want.
I have Shield Boomerang. I'm a defensive player who knows all about taxi meta theory, which most players do by now, but it's the main idea is Exceed is a game about resources.
Right.
Not about damage.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage the strength of this card to allow me to set up a situation to trade my worse resources for your better ones.
Okay.
And the way I do that is playing boosts.
Sure. Okay.
And it's a little bit trickier because normally in a situation like this, you would be really happy playing light because light dive, very famous combo. It's 5 damage, almost nothing can stop it because it's speed 6.
Right.
But we want to leverage the power of Shield Boomerang to do something other characters can't. We get to play our worst boosts first. And our opponent still has to spend time responding to the Shield Boomerang threat. Because if they strike in, we can Shield Boomerang. And even though we've also wasted this spike, they've now spent a turn striking, which means they've wasted a card. They've wasted a tempo because it was their turn.
Right.
and we become on the play again. Or they have to proactively do something to help them against the shield boomerang move out.
Right.
And then we have a free boost down that helps us in the following situation.
Okay. So I'm putting down a boost that will um normally in Exceed, I put down a boost that provokes a response.
Right.
With Shovel and Shield Knight, this provokes a response already. My
This
opponent
provokes the response.
is
Yes.
already going to do something about this. So I'm going to put down a boost that is going to um
We want to
that is
build
going
it.
to predict their response and help deal with whatever they do next.
Right. We want to build it into something, but you want to play your low value boost first. Something like a Fierce that doesn't actually change a lot of interactions
Right.
and still benefits the shield boomerang if you happen to
Okay.
throw it out.
Okay.
Or the charge up. And if you're playing defensively, you're usually doing well on resources already, because playing
Right.
defensively in this game, you tend to go card neutral.
Right. Yeah, because striking is resource
Right.
negative, not striking is not.
And then when your opponent does do something like run to the other side of you, now you can play your high value boost. And all of a sudden, they've dealt with the shield boomerang, but now you're 2 turns ahead.
I see. Okay. So you've used the threat of your overwhelming option to make your opponent spend time diffusing it to get back to a neutral state. In the meantime, you're setting things up that mean that you're not in a neutral state once your opponent's done addressing the shield boomerang. Now you have Way of the Warrior online and they got to hold that.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And now, instead of having to spend a high value card like the shield boomerang
Right.
to deal with one of their high value cards, I can play something like Assault. And this is 6 damage at 7 speed.
Sure.
Or I can play something like, if they're at range 2 over here, a Spike. That's 5 speed, 7 damage, right?
Yeah.
And I can force out very high value cards from them to not lose the game on the spot.
Sure.
And no matter how the trade goes, hey, I still have Shield Boomerang, and now you have to deal with it again.
Okay. Sure. That makes sense.
The hard part of this play style, even though it's really effective, is if you play down a high value boost first, the opponent can just strike into you, and then you're forced not only to spend the shield boomerang, but also to lose this high value card.
Okay.
So you have to be careful about playing a card that either helps your shield boomerang and doesn't lose its value when they strike, or a lower value card that helps set up the future situation
Right.
without being too big of a detriment to lose if they just strike into you.
So in this position, for example, they passed over me. I can then spend some turns moving to get Shield Boomerang back online, and if they strike into me, I just throw Assault, and that'll work just fine in this position.
Yeah. If they say Ryu is over here, and I throw out Defend, Ryu doesn't want to deal with the Shield Boomerang. They move to the other side of me. Now my focus is better.
Yep.
I boosted the value of other cards in my kit. And I can either strike with that focus directly, or now I can play another boost.
Right. Okay.
And compound that.
It's definitely possible to overcommit in these situations, but I've got to mitigate that. I have to know what my opponent is able to do to diffuse these setups, but also it's pretty tough to overcommit when you have the ability, if you need it, to say that you're just not hitting me.
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, the way you overcommit in this second play style is if you put down too many boosts that are high value, you lose options later in the game.
Okay.
Right. I spend my light. Now I don't have a light later. Now I don't have a sweep later.
Right. Okay, sure. So it's less about obviously if there's a way that my my opponent can diffuse these scary boost setups without me getting value out of them, that's devastating, right? If I've spent my light and my fierce and I whiff against the opponent, that's a huge problem. If I'm playing well, that shouldn't happen. But there is still the risk of, well, I needed that light for later.
Correct.
Okay, so your game plan is to leverage the combination of Shield Boomerang and my lower value boost so that when I do need that light later, I still have the light.
It's correct. It's the thing that Shield Boomerang lets you do better than other characters.
Okay.
Is because you have such a strong threat, you can afford to play lower value boost first. Okay. Whereas normally, a character without Shield Boomerang, if they played Defend here, the opponent still has so many options.
Right. Yeah, they
it
just
changes a couple interactions, but not really in a super major way. You know, your sweep still loses to their dive or their spike.
Right.
Your assault still loses to their sweep, a little bit less hard, but it still
trades
loses.
Marginally better. But also the thing that you had to beat their sweep, one of them's gone now. You're weakening your mix-up.
Right. But because Shield Boomerang warps the strike so much because that range dodge is so powerful, when they spend a tempo to deal with the Shield Boomerang, now the rest of your deck is higher quality, and you can spend those cards.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and at some point you will throw the Shield Boomerang because they'll strike into you, and you need to leverage it on defense.
Correct. The goal is to use it as a threat first and foremost, but you got to throw the Shield Boomerang. It's 6 free damage.
It is still 6 free damage. You're using it for part of the same reason that the offensive line is. It's just that you are also looking for other ways to increase the upside at the expense of proactivity.
Right. Leverage the power of Shield Boomerang to make the rest of your deck stronger.
Okay. Nope, that makes sense. That makes sense.
The aggressive play style leverages the power of Shield Boomerang to
shorten the game of Exceed.
Yeah, to make it so your opponent doesn't have as much time to play into their advantages.
Yeah, sure. So you might have diffusal options for the light that I'm going to put down in a second, but you haven't drawn them yet because it's turn 4, and you're 10 life down because you whiffed into a Shield Boomerang. I'm going to keep the pressure on, and you probably don't have answers to what I'm going to do because you haven't had a chance to stabilize your economy yet.
And when we're trading, I'm going to gauge if you spend your turns preparing instead of making that life deficit back up. That life deficit just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you're dead.
Okay, sure. And if they do stabilize and they wind up having a scary ultra that they can threaten with their gauge surplus, I can just put the Shield Boomerang back behind me again and say strike into me.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. God, that's scary.
Yeah. They're very good at leveraging both like main ideas behind a competitive Exceed, which is using tempo to your advantage and making your deck quality better than your opponent's so that you win the resource game.
Right.
Yep. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so much of it is enabled by just our 2 ultras. Like the rest of our cards are like cool, but they're role players. And the engine of the character is on the threat that these ultras generate.
Correct.
Cool. Okay, cool. So the other question that I wanted to ask was about normals, and we've talked quite a bit about them already. Assault and Dive are awesome as part of my opening mix-up. You just mentioned Defend and Fierce as being important boosts for your play style. Light, obviously. As attacks, as boosts, is Shovel and Shield Knight, are they using their normals kind of like normally, for lack of a better term? Or is there like specific tech for these normals that we should be thinking about?
I'm pulling them out here again just so we can reference them.
Sure. Yeah, we We seem to have lost them all over the place here. This is probably
in
faster.
translation. All right. I mean, a lot of what you're doing with your normals is just playing good exceed.
Right.
If you're playing the aggressive strategy, right, you are playing solid exceed, and your ultras are just speeding it up so your opponent gets less time to do their special thing.
Sure.
And so you're kind of hoping normal exceed gets you the rest of the way there. If you're playing the defensive style, obviously there's some boosts to rely on, but you still play a lot of normal exceed to even get to that position and get the gauge in the first place.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, like a way to think about the defensive style is kind of that, like, your ultras or shield boomerang in particular enables you to keep playing normal exceed while your opponent's not allowed to.
Right.
Okay. So it sounds like kind of all of these attacks and all of these boosts are going to have a place in the kit.
Yep. Assault dive, we've already talked about as being normal, part of your range 1 mix-ups. Your character ability essentially reads these cards at +1 range.
Right.
If you position well for them. Focus sweep are just extremely consistent gauge generation. We play with this idea of slow to fast that makes it very difficult for the opponent to catch up on life because we're just trading with them.
Right.
When we talk about playing defensively, when our opponent is striking into them, it's actually the opposite effect where we play fast to slow, because the risk of falling behind on damage and gauge is large, right? We have to respect our opponent's mid speeds because they're faster than ours.
Okay.
So playing fast guarantees you get to trade. If I play Grasp and you play Grasp, you either deal, or if I play Grasp on defense, you either deal 3 damage to me with your Grasp, or we trade, I end up some amount of life behind, but we both still get a gauge.
Right. Right. Because you know, they played a sweep or a focus and I'm sad, but hey, I got the gauge and I got the gauge quite consistently. And hopefully set up a range that I like with the push or pull effect.
Yeah. Crosses is still a fun card. You do have to be careful because a lot of people mistake this for being a zoner, which it is not, just because it's a puppet. You don't have the damage to zone.
Right.
So using this to escape is usually less good than you might think, which means you're often throwing it at range 1 more than range 2.
Sure. I get back to range 4 on defense and then use my turn to put Shield Knight underneath
Shield Knight under me. Yep.
And now I have a setup again.
Yep. Run is also a very good way just to take space away from the opponent.
Sure.
What else was I thinking?
So, like, no particular reason to use backstep, probably, outside of trying to get away from a Zangief or something.
Not really. It resets to range 4, but the issue with that is usually Assault is one of the cards you want to play at range 4.
Right. Right. Okay.
Usually you're throwing Assault as an attack in this mix-up, and especially why it's powerful so early is because it gains advantage. You usually get an extra gauge out of it because you just get to create another trade.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any real tricks, and I'm not seeing anything in particular.
I feel like tech, parry, and reading are always the same, pretty much.
They're good. Yeah, they're good.
They're generally good exceed boosts, right? That are going to let you do things to your opponent that are going to come up in a game of exceed. Weigh them carefully because pretty much this is gauge. This is an amazing defensive card. This is part of your mix-up.
Parry block is actually relevant here because their parries basically read, I have 1 less copy of Shield Boomerang.
Right. Right. All right. So you
I would rather give up a block than a Shield Boomerang.
Right.
But block is also just such a solid card because you get gauge.
Yeah.
Even if you don't hit, you get gauge.
Okay.
You can throw block out turn 1.
It's part of your mix-up too.
Yeah, you've got this crazy mix-up you're threatening, sure, but I just throw out the block and get a gauge. I'm happy. Yeah. You still have to deal with my mix-up. Have fun.
Oh, it never occurred to me that prior to you mentioning this that right, so the main part of my mix up here, both of these lose to my opponent just crossing out. But I
Hmm.
do have Discovery, which would deal with it wherever we
Yes.
put Discovery.
Yeah,
It would catch
Discovery does deal with cross out.
it would catch the cross, but also kind of block does too if all I care about is gauge. If I have a way to follow them into the corner, then I will happily block their empty cross.
If you trade a block for a cross, you're usually pretty happy unless you're
Yeah,
against a hard zoner.
yeah. You
And
just
even against a hard zoner, being a
you
cross down turn one is
yeah. Now they're in the corner. You have the center of the board. You have a gauge. You can probably find something to do with that situation.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and so my other attacks, my other boosts, I'm gonna use all of them more or less like a regular character would.
Yep. And your
Okay.
specials are kind of just like some extra neat side graded normals. Some of them are a little bit better, some of them are a little bit worse, depending on the position the game happens to be in.
Right.
They're really just very toolkitty
Right. Yeah. Honestly, it sounds
ways
like
to
so.
get your ultras online.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Ways to their car keys to unlock my gun cabinet where
Yes.
I will use to kill my opponent. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, my last question before we talk about counterplay is about some economy, and we've talked a little bit about this. We've got sort of our dedicated force card in Shield Gong. Clearly, I know where my gauge is going. Um, it seems like I have like a decent amount of card draw outside of that poor boost on Shield Boomerang that I'm never going to play that has a lot of card draw on it.
Mhm.
How is my economy? Is running all of the stuff that we're talking about feasible, or am I going to be strapped for resources sometimes?
It definitely helps that you basically know where your gauge is going.
Right,
You're not paying to exceed. You don't need to generate the 3 extra gauge that every character in the game needs to.
right,
It's just not a requirement. Hand size is nice, but something you'll find more and more as you get to top level play is good players prepare less.
sure,
Even with characters that don't necessarily have the strongest economy, if I can just go card neutral and make decisions, I might prepare 2 or 3 times over the course of an entire game.
right, right, and
Um,
and honestly,
sometimes you'll need 2 more, and don't feel like it's a mistake if you need 2 more, but usually there's just better things you can be doing on your turn, and it's okay to be at 4 cards.
sure, especially if you have a Shield Boomerang behind you, or a Shield Boomerang setup ready,
Yep.
rather, or can threaten one. Uh,
Mhm.
if I'm already in a situation where my opponent can't punch me, I'm happy to prepare, but also I might not need to because I can probably do more by advancing a threat a little bit and drawing one card instead.
Yep. If
Okay,
you're playing defensively and making the rest of your deck better, that often means you can wild swing, which helps you keep card advantage more,
sure.
right? Because you're just playing boosts that increase the quality of your entire deck. And if you're playing aggressively, I mean, game is ending quicker.
Right. Yeah, you don't need as many cards. And Shield Boomerang as a card, when it's behind you,
Mhm.
gives you like total control of the pace of the game. If you do need cards, if you've got Shield Boomerang behind you, go ahead and prep because what are they going to do about it?
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense.
And if you really find yourself in a sticky situation, don't be afraid to just throw away your hand. If it's not an ultra, most of your cards are disposable.
Sure. Just change cards and dig.
Yeah, and change cards is usually a much better action than prepare because you'll get to your better options faster.
Sure. Yeah. You're trading material for time.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense. Probably don't spend gauge on that change cards if you are going to go below 2 or 3.
Yeah, not if your shield boomerangs are out, you can go to 2. Otherwise, you really want to stay at 3 whenever
Yep.
possible.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
Or 4, because at 4 gauge, you can threaten shield boomerang and then you still have tandem online.
And you still have tandem attack from having hit with Shield Boomerang. Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. So my final question, we've talked about
Mhm.
the shovel and shield knight things. My opponent is going to have watched this lesson. They know all about
Yes.
what I can do. What is my opponent doing to stop me from playing the shovel and shield knight game? What does the counterplay look like?
So, like I've mentioned, Shovel and Shield is a very strong character because they just kind of play solid competitive Exceed well.
Right.
Uh, their weakness is they rely a lot on their ultras. Uh, like we talked about, the rest of their specials are kind of just there. And so when we talk about characters at a very high level, we want to consider how is my character doing something better than my opponent's character,
Okay.
right? That's how I win Exceed, is my character needs to do something better than my opponent's character. If you're a zoner, range 4 and 5 or 6, you're going to be able to win more strikes and do more damage and play better at than your opponent.
So I'm
It's a
going
simple
to
concept.
I'm going to allocate more resources in this limited resource game to set up the
Mhm.
situations where my opponent is disfavored against me.
Right. When I'm Monado, my power comes from my passive,
Right.
right? I have some transforms that are good too, and they give me some good passive effects. But a huge portion of my power is just there on the card all the time.
Right.
Shovel and Shield's power comes from their ultras. Every ultra you parry or every ultra that they whiff is huge.
Okay.
You are
It
taking
would be
away
like if you could
a
whiff with Monato's
massive,
character ability.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
taking away a massive part of their power budget.
Okay. So don't
Um,
block ever. Parry shield
yeah,
boomerang, parry tandem
if
attack.
you ever parry a shield boomerang, it is such a devastating blow
Okay.
because you've taken them down from 12 free damage on their reshuffle to 6.
Right.
And 6
Yeah.
you could deal with. 12 is a big number.
Yeah.
Six is still a big number, but you can deal with 6.
If you wild swing a spike into plenty of options in Exceed, you have made up most of a shield boomerang. You didn't mean to, but you did. 12 is
Right.
tough.
Right.
Okay.
So using parry well is going to help you a lot. It's
I assume
difficult.
kind of similarly, if my opponent is playing a character who somehow does have answers to shield boomerang. Ryu has a
Mhm.
Tatsu in some positions. Everybody has dive in some positions. Use those options, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Every character in the game, because Exceed is a relatively well balanced game, has advantages they can play to. Don't just trade with Shovel and Shield. Part of what
Right.
makes them so strong is their advantages are oppressive and come early. If
Right.
you can get your ultras off before they get their ultras off, now they're the ones who are having to catch up. And they
Right.
just have to spend their ultras to catch up,
Yeah.
not just to
They
be
can't
ahead.
hold them over you anymore.
Mhm.
Okay.
What that might look like as Ryu is if you might just cross out turn 1 because
Start
then you
throwing
can threaten
Hadoken.
Hado.
Yeah.
And they have counterplay. This is Exceed. Everyone's got counterplay, right? But don't let them just play standard basic Exceed into their big threat.
Right.
Fight
Because
their hand.
because that big threat is game warping.
Mhm. Fight their hand. Use your parries. Use your readings. Put them out of position. Right. Make them spend resources to open up holes before they have the gauge to close them.
Yep.
And
And then exploit those holes.
correct.
Okay.
And fight their ability to create ultra threats by disabling their gauge generation. Don't let them hit you.
Right. Sure. I feel like that's tough just because like Uh,
It is tough. It's
it,
why
it's
they're a high tier character.
they're a strong
Absolutely.
character. Like in general, it's difficult. You have two blocks. You have a discovery that's above curve. It's pretty tough to um completely deny an opponent gauge if they're playing explicitly for gauge. So
Mhm.
another way to think about it is like, all right, make them pay for that gauge in life.
Yeah.
If you think they're throwing discovery, kill them for it. Hit a sweep on them. If you think they're blocking, man, defensive spike is a game changer once you know it's an option. Uh, it's not stable or safe at all, but if they're playing for gauge, maybe they're
Mhm.
blocking. Um, Call them out and deal with the things that they're using to get gauge, and uh, they'll get it eventually. But hopefully, they're down a lot of life by the time they get it online.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The assault is bad, turn one. Dive is 5 free damage.
Right.
That's a lot to have to catch up from the very start of the game. If you have to lose to one of them, at least the assault you can trade with.
Yeah.
And it's rough because you give them the extra gauge, but with the exception of maybe some grappler characters, man, you are going to have a rough time when they get 5 free damage and then 2 turns later they hit you for 6 free damage and then another turn later you're taking 7, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that becomes a problem pretty quick. So
And all of a sudden you start the game at 10 life and they're at 30.
yeah, you're finally online at that point. So if you're going to call out a side of the mix up, force a mutual whiff by
Mhm.
crossing out, or if you've got a hard read that they're playing the dive under, or go under them with the assault and make them whiff, and now you've got board control. Uh,
Yeah.
Try not to lose to the dive in particular. It sounds like.
Yep.
Okay.
Don't give them the free damage. That's what they
Okay.
want.
Makes sense. And I mean, like part of that is like, yeah, okay, now they know that, but hey, advantage from the assault gives them the ability to do all sorts of scary things to you on their next turn. Like,
And it absolutely does.
and yeah, they have a really scary opening mix up. You don't have safe plays. Like they can
Mhm.
deal with almost anything that you're playing. But you kind of have to make them do it, and then uh, deal with the situation that's going to come up afterward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Characters with free movement as well, or a lot of cross ups, have a much easier time dealing with their ultras because they're range dodges
Right.
and not speed dodges.
Right.
So characters like Noelle, who can cross you up very quickly, can kind of just deal with shield boomerang.
Sure.
It's not as much of a checkmate threat as it is against some of these older characters. Season 7 in particular is a lot harder for Shovel and Shield to deal with because every character can just zoom around the stage.
Dash cancel, right? Dash cancel invalidates a lot of the defensive play that you were talking about earlier.
In contrast, Season 6 is a nightmare to play against Shovel and Shield because all of a sudden you have no parry. You have some movement, but that movement can really kind of just be played around. And sure, you have big ranges, and guess what my range is? 2 to 4, you don't hit me.
Right. Okay. So look at what tools your opponent does have to deal with Shield Boomerang as Shovel Knight. Rather, try to mitigate those tools. If they don't have tools that deal with Shield Boomerang, just hold it over them forever and play your game. For my opponent, I'm not trying to beat Shovel and Shield Knight. I'm trying to beat their ultras, and if I can beat their ultras, the rest of my kit is stronger than the rest of their kit.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense to me. Well, cool. I feel like I've got a really solid grounding on how to play these two weirdos. Anything else you wanted to mention before we wrapped it up for the night taxi?
I don't think so. I think we're good. I know we kind of meandered a bit.
No, I mean, listen. First of all, it's XS Exceed. This is not an organized lesson plan, and it never has been. So don't worry about that. But I think we covered everything.
Play this character if you want to learn good, solid, fundamental competitive Exceed.
Yep.
There's
Sure.
definitely some newer, flashier stuff, but if you want to learn just basic fundamentals and how to turn an advantage into a bigger advantage, this character is really solid no matter what kind of way you're trying to play.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of transferable skills. Other opponents aren't going to have shield boomerang, but they're going to have some dumb thing that your opponent can't deal with. And learning how to leverage shield boomerang will help you learn how to leverage whatever other thing that the character that you are playing has to offer. If you've got you told me one time the interaction between Sagat and Ryu. Uh, Ryu's Metsu Hadoken comes online at 3 gauge. Sagat's Tiger Destruction comes online at 2 gauge, and that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, like little advantages that your character has over your opponent. Um, this is how Exceed works. This is how you win games of Exceed. And you're saying that these two are a good way to learn about how to leverage those advantages.
Yes.
Well,
And
cool.
we didn't get to talk about it as much, but a lot of people focus very heavily on vertical synergies, and it's important not to forget about horizontal synergies as well.
Okay.
I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Great example, light. How do characters deal with light? You know this, Gear. I taught you.
So they tech it. If they can't tech it, they go to a range where speed is less important.
Mm-hmm.
They run to range 1 classically.
What is one of the only answers every character has to shield boomerang?
It'd be run. It'd be parry.
Dive.
Dive, sure.
Because they can get past you.
Yep.
If they tech your light, they don't have a dive.
Yep. So now your light is better because I see what you mean by horizontal synergies. Your light is better because shield boomerang exists.
Your light is better because if they ever use their dive as a tech to deal with it, your shield boomerang gets stronger.
Right.
And conversely, if they ever use a dive to deal with your shield boomerang, your light is stronger.
Okay. So actually, yeah, the counterplay is more complicated than that. If you overcommit to beating shield boomerang, it's actually super possible to lose to the rest of Shovel Knight's kit.
Yeah,
so you need
light dive is insane.
Yeah. So you need to address the threat of shield boomerang without opening up holes in your game plan that Shovel and Shield can then exploit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
Every
that
game
hard,
of
but that makes
Exceed
sense.
is incredibly dynamic. Every resource down matters.
Yeah.
It's what makes
absolutely.
the game so good. What makes the game so interesting. It's why
people keep playing.
Yeah, even with a little bit of a content drought, I played Exceed for years.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's still a thriving custom scene. People are still playing this game despite the lack of official support. Yeah, no, it's an awesome game. I feel like if we can end any lesson with, and that's why you should play Exceed, I feel like we've done our job.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This Shovel Knight isn't lame as hell, and that's why you should play Exceed.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So if you want to compare and contrast, go watch Taxi's lesson on OG Shovel Knight. It's a very different story. This character.
If you want your friends to hate you, go watch Taxi's lessons on Shovel Knight.
Yeah. Go implement those strategies into beating your friends into the ground. Beating your friends into the ground isn't even the right tone. It's like very, very slowly lowering them into a hole and filling it with concrete. This Shovel Knight beats your friends into the ground. They might have fun doing that. All right, Taxi. Yeah. I think I've got everything I need to go and beat my friends into the ground with Shovel and Shield Knight. Thank you so much for the for your time, for your expertise. And I think You might be cutting out on me, actually. I
Oh,
can't hear
nope.
you.
I'm here. We're good.
All
I
right, all
said you're
right.
welcome.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. Yeah, a little bit of interference, it's no big deal, right as we're ending the lesson. But yeah, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Folks at home, I hope you enjoyed it too. I hope you learned something. Go play Shovel and Shield, go play Exceed. Um, I will see you all for the next one. Goodbye, everybody.
Uh,